So I couldn't sleep last night because I have a medicine that I take and have been taking for like ever, and I'm trying to cut down on it. So I was up and mind really alert, and I wanted to look into something. And here's what I found. Did you know that there are only about 3 states in a normal human where fat cells are actually laid down, deposited, new ones? Usually fat cells expand. When they get to the point where they can't expand anymore, when they've really stretched the limits, then they can gradually add more fat cells, but it's difficult. However, there are 3 states where it's easy for the body, and in fact, the body does it automatically. One is in a developing fetus, and 2 is in puberty, and 3 is in pregnancy. I've had 7 pregnancies if you count the one that ended prematurely, but 6 full-term pregnancies. And I'm looking into this, and I'm like, yeah, because that's really when I packed on the weight, but I didn't feel like, it felt like my whole body composition changed during those times, especially when I was a young woman and I got pregnant for the first time. That seemed to be the biggest change. So here's some of the other things that I found out about this. It's typically white fat, not the brown insulating fat. It's subcutaneous, which means under the skin, and it tends to be in the visceral areas, like in the abdominal areas. Big surprise there. Also around the organs. It's to sustain us in case we happen to come into like a time of famine carrying a baby. Problem is, after the baby's gone, a lot of times that fat doesn't go away. So here's the other thing that I found. Okay, so my second question was, why does so much fat end up stuck in the abdominal region? Because most of my fat that was on my body was pretty much evenly spread out, even from the back of my neck, where I had a little fat roll there, to my ankles, feet, legs, arms, chin, back, fat pad everywhere. And it seemed to be pretty much the same density, but so much more abdominally and, like around the back and things like that. So why? Okay, well, here's what I was reading. Because it's easier for the body to carry the fat in the torso area. As far as the motion of the body goes, can you imagine if all of your fat was carried in your hands or in your feet, how hard it would be to get around? But with a body, it's easier for it to move, and it maintains its center of gravity if the fat is located centrally in the body. It moves better, and it's just a better mechanism rather than it all being like in the forearms or on top of your head or something like that. So that's why so much of it is concentrated in this central portion of the body. And why is it that it's so hard to take off this weight? Well, the fat cells, they're sitting there underneath the layer of skin. You've got the epidermis, and then you've got the thick dermis, and that's like where the hair, all the hair follicles are, and then there's this big, thick layer of blood cells and things like that, and nerve cells and stuff. And then you've got the fat pad. And for some people, it can be just inches and inches thick. In parts of my body where I've still got it, it's inches and inches thick. So what happens is that as you exercise and you create a calorie deficit in your body, but you're still feeding your body well, your body's going to use that fat. It's going to take those, it's going to empty out some of those adipose cells and take those lipids out, suck them right out, and it's going to use them in your body. But, the torso seems to be very well protected. There's not a lot of muscle groups in that area that are really well developed, especially when somebody has a lot of weight on the torso. Think about the butt and the legs, which tend to be the first to thin out, and the arms. Well, we have big muscle groups in there that we're using all the time. But in the torso, even when you're walking and, like maybe swimming and stuff like that, a lot of the torso muscles really don't get used that much. We protect those through sitting and standing in one place and things of that nature. I was shocked when I started adding some running into my walk at how quickly I started feeling a cage of muscles around my torso that I hadn't felt before, even though I had been swimming for years, walking for a year vigorously. I'm talking 6 to 8 miles a day, but a couple of weeks of minimal running, and I started to feel this real, almost like as if I was wearing a corset or girdle or something like that around my rib cage, especially in the back, coming around to the sides, some in the front, like in the sternal area. So, really weird how those muscles started developing and getting stronger. And then I started noticing a big drop in weight, down to, like 3-pound drop in a week. And so I'm thinking that some of it has got to have to do with the proximity of a large active muscle group underneath that fat. That's where it's being active. I know that the body is a lazy thing, and I'm looking into this because I sure don't get it all. But I get that the fat on my butt, gone. The fat on my thighs, gone. Calves, arms, shoulder area, up here, gone. But the areas that I haven't been working, it's just hanging around. I know that you cannot turn fat into muscle. There are two completely different types of muscle, of tissues. But I do believe that the fat cells in a particular area feed the muscle in that same particular area. I mean, doesn't that make sense? So this is what I'm looking into, and I'm looking into some studies that are online that doctors have done. You got to be careful where you take your information from, and trying to find out what type of things I can do to really help move this along, because I see in myself that I'm ready to have this done. And, I've been thinking about plastic surgery, but honestly, I want to empty this out before I have that type of surgery. I don't want to have the fat cells sucked out. I want to go in and have a clean surgery where if they remove skin, that's great. If they fix muscle, that's great. If I don't need the surgery, that's even greater. But, this maternal fat that gets laid down pregnancy after pregnancy, this surprises me, but at the same time doesn't surprise me how amazing our bodies are. And you know what? It pisses me off some too. But I'm going to fight it.